The Indian government is preparing to launch IndiaAI Compute Portal, a platform that will enable key stakeholders, including central ministries and state governments in India, to request computing capacity. This initiative is a part of broader IndiaAI Mission, which aims to provide subsidized compute network and storage services to eligible users, with the government covering up to 40% of the total computing cost. Union IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw confirmed that the portal will be launched in the next 7 to 8 days, so perhaps in a week's time from now. The portal will offer shared computing resources, including approximately 14,000 graphic processing units or GPUs, provided by at least 10 companies that have submitted the lowest bids. Now, this move is expected to enhance the accessibility and affordability of advanced computing resources across government sectors and beyond, to even startups. How will it really change India's journey to becoming a nation that spearheads AI? Let's talk about that. Joining us on the show is Manish Maheshwari, Mason Fellow at Harvard University. Also with us is Anurag Dua, partner at EY. Manish, I want to come to you first. A common computing facility with GPUs available across board, 10 firms, 14,000, 18,000 likely to be acquired in the coming few months. Is this promising to you enough? Because the government says these are high-end processing units. These are units, in fact, far better than what DeepSeek has been built on. Are you happy with the portal and what it has to offer?
Yeah, so Shweta, you asked me, is it promising enough? And I personally feel it's quite promising, at least on 3 reasons, right? Number one, it can be a game changer for emerging startups and researchers, because they don't have to now worry about compute because they have someone to go to. Second, it also signals a change in the stance, in the sense that the government is encouraging public-private partnership. I think, in fact, in this initiative, companies like Jio, Tata, AWS are the private players who are coming together to support this. So that's a very important signaling effect on the ecosystem. And third is, it does boost the whole AI innovation quotient for the country, and it accelerates the ability of the country to be more self-reliant and also develop indigenous capabilities. So it is quite promising, in my view, to have something like this come from the government of India. And this will go a long way personally that's what I feel personally.
Okay, you think it's going to go a long way. Anurag, do you agree? About 14,000 GPUs to build foundational models in India. Manish says it is promising, it is going to help startups, in fact, also going to help a lot of government ministries to compute and build foundational models. Do we have the right ecosystem in place now with IndiaAI portal to be launched soon?
So, Shweta, I'll put it this way. Is it promising? I would say very promising. We have a start now. There are two parts to it. One, for the larger ecosystem creation, I would say yes, this is a great move. And one part is whether the GPUs are available or not. Second part is the understanding of the ecosystem of where to go for those GPUs, specifically for the ministries.
Okay.
Because there has been a lot of discussions that have been there, that once a model is getting built, how to train that model, where to take that model to be trained. I'm sure proper guardrails would be set up, and there would be some directional thing that would be coming from the ministry at some point in time, from a guardrails perspective also. Coupling all those things, I think it is a great initiative. From a larger ecosystem perspective, I believe that the entire innovation ecosystem, or whether we are able to develop our own foundational models, I'm sure, Shweta, you would have seen that the government of India has also come up with another initiative where they are asking for proposals from startups, academia, researchers and all, to actually develop India context specific foundational models. So that initiative also gets a huge fillip. But having said that, while one part is the GPU, other part is how to incentivize the larger innovation ecosystem in the country, more from a human resource perspective. That remains to be seen if there is any such initiative that is coming from the ministry at some point in time. But yes, I see this is a huge initiative and very promising for the industry.
All right, but equitable access, Anurag, in your assessment, will that not incentivize startups and other government players to really start participating now that they know that, and the government is suggesting about 40% of all the computing cost would be reduced by the way of this new portal? Would that not be an incentive enough?
Big incentive, Shweta. That's going to be a big incentive, yeah.
All right, Manish, I want to come back to you. Government of India is making strides, and we all heard, Ashwini Vaishnaw, the minister responsible for taking India's AI ambition further. He said that given how DeepSeek was developed at a fraction of cost of what foundational models earlier prior to that were developed, it gives a reason for India and India's dream to be taken seriously. And with government now providing that sort of infrastructure at a basic level, in your assessment, how long will it take before India comes up with its own foundational models here?
I think it won't take long, and I'll tell you why. Number one is to build something. The major part of the cost is the compute cost, right? I mean, you need compute power both at the training level, and also when you build a reasoning model, you need some compute power at the inference level as well when you try to draw inferences. Now, most entrepreneurs sort of think about it and say, okay, it's a huge cost. How do we, defray that cost? And should we even do it? Or should we depend more on sort of other players to build it? And we will probably build a vertical, problem-specific kind of solutions. Now, here, what happens is that one is, of course, they get access. And secondly, they also feel like, okay, there is a bit of a support here, both financially and otherwise. So it will create more motivation for startups to venture into this area, and also for more venture capital firms to also invest in those companies, knowing that the broader public policy and regulatory environment and the government support is there. So that will also lead to better funding and better access to capital for these startups. Plus, also startups can feel like, okay, this is something which is solvable, because if you think about it, even for DeepSeek, right? I mean, they talk about like a sub 10 million kind of investment to build, some kind of model based on distillation of existing LLMs. Now, Indian companies could also do that now, knowing that, okay, that's possible both from the perspective of capability, but also now that they have access to the compute resources and also some way to also defray that cost. So bringing all these things together, plus the signaling like this would encourage more entrepreneurs to go into this direction. And we will probably see another DeepSeek kind of a innovation happening from India very soon. That's my view.
All right. Well, we're all waiting for that. Anurag, another aspect of IndiaAI Mission, and which is what the CEO Abhishek Singh of IndiaAI Mission said. He said the makers of foundational model can now access up to 1,500 crore rupees worth funds as a part of IndiaAI Mission. Is that money enough, given that we've now seen enough and more evidence that you don't need a lot of money to build foundational models?
So yes, I would say, and in fact, that's the initiative I was talking about, Shweta. I think this is good money, and proposals are being asked. I understand some proposals have already been submitted, and what I also see is that government is co-investing. And the point that we were just discussing, that it's a huge signaling also, whether it is on the GPU front or providing support on actually developing foundational models. It's a huge signaling for not only from the government side, but also the ecosystem also now understands now whether more resources are getting invested from the private sector side, because definitely while government will play its role, and it is playing its role, I would say, private sector also needs to play its own role to come up and actually develop something like this. So with this entire set of initiatives, that's why I would say it's not only one initiative, whether it is GPU or the other program that the government is talking about. It is a combination of all of those initiatives that is really catalyzing the ecosystem in the country.
Manish, I want to come back to you. While we're seeing a lot of promises being made, we're also seeing a lot of strides that government is making vis-a-vis providing the right kind of support to, startups, players out there who are likely to take India's AI mission forward. We haven't seen a lot of progress in the past 1 year. Bharat GPT, the talks of an AI model which would be backed by Reliance, those conversations seem to have faded into oblivion. What really happened there? What, according to you, are the challenges that continue to persist?
Yeah, that's a good point. In fact, even I was wondering, and I think the way I would answer this question is, so far the discussion or the narrative was that you need huge amount of capital And large, deep-pocketed companies in the Bay Area are the best suited to build foundational models because they have the access to resources and they are already ahead of the game, right? Now, that narrative has completely changed the last 1 month. Now, what the new thinking now is that the real moat is not capital, the real moat is creativity. And I think in my mind, changing of that narrative would cause entrepreneurs to start venturing into this space now. That's one. Number two is that India as a country, we have been now figuring out what should be our unique positioning here and where should we innovate here, right? Now, if you think from a development perspective, you need data sets, and India has some unique data sets, right? If you think about our healthcare data set, our traffic and logistics databases, our agriculture data sets, all those data sets can now be leveraged in a very unique way to provide solution which is very relevant for this country. And my view is that as those data sets open up, because this initiative is probably the first initiative. I think a follow-on initiative I'm expecting is that how government makes the India relevant data sets available for people to build models on, right? I mean, of course, taking care of all the security, privacy, and anonymity aspects of it. But those data sets, when they are exposed, because ultimately, the better the quality of data sets, the better the learning and the training of the models. Number two, that's on the data set side. The number two is what you need is a bit of a coding and the sort of the writing the algorithm side of it. I think in my mind, that is where Anurag's point about repurposing the labor force or the skill sets is needed. And the signaling effect will cause a lot more people to now think about AI as a suitable career options. And people will retrain themselves and repurpose themselves from what they were doing to becoming more like AI specialists or AI experts. And that will also help us. And the third one is, of course, the compute, which in a great way this thing solves, because you need computing solutions or compute power. And I think this initiative provides the compute power. So the other two things is what we are waiting for. One is the data sets, which are India specific. And the second one is, some kind of a mechanism where we get the people to sort of repurpose themselves and also reskill themselves to become more focused on the AI part of the work, right? So I think with these three things coming together, I'm pretty hopeful that India would be a leader in this area as well.
All right. Very interesting point there, Anurag, that Manish made. It's not really about deep pockets anymore. It's about the right kind of creativity. And while we have a low cost, low compute option that government is making available, what about data sets? What about the skills? Those continue to be laggards. What, according to you, are the challenges that India is facing as far as realizing its AI mission?
So on the data set, Shweta, there have been lots of initiatives that have happened in the past. In fact, Government of India, Ministry of IT itself came up with few initiatives. If I recall correctly, Niti Aayog also came up with a couple of initiatives on data sets. Look, one of the problems that we have been facing specifically on the data sets has always been about the points that Manish just mentioned about the anonymity, about how to safeguard, or the security aspects that need to be put in. Now, I think with some of the aspects of, we'll have to see how DPDP is also evolving in the country. So, and how do we really fine tune some of those aspects and really encourage people? Look, other point is that how do we encourage the ecosystem to continuously sharing that data? We have one of the largest data sets available given the size of our population in multiple sectors. Whether you look, when you talk about healthcare, transport, any sector that you look at, we'll have one of the largest data sets that would be available. So that's one. How do we really fine tune that ecosystem that people are really sharing their data with the right safeguards in place? That's one.
Okay.
On the skilling side, Shweta, that is again, in my view, will be one of the most critical aspects because while we have a lot of creativity, India has been a powerhouse as far as the code writing is concerned, and I'm sure it will remain so.
Right.
But how to upskill people continuously, how to come up with some of the new programs, how to incentivize people getting into that AI code writing, the models creation and all, that will remain as one of the most critical aspects now, having the infrastructure problems
catered to in a way. Absolutely, yes. Anurag. In fact, as much as I would like this conversation to go on, I've completely run out of time. Anurag Dua, Manish Maheshwari, thank you very much for taking time out for joining us on that very important discussion on India's AI tryst, opportunities as well as challenges.